Hi, and welcome to Two Tired Teachers. And as the case would be, we had planned on talking to y'all about the fact that stuff happens, and we got to this park,
and stuff happened.
Stuff happened. We connected to the fresh water,
and left for a little while.
and well, before we left, we had this situation happen the last 2 times we had gone to water and electric sites. If you've watched our channel, you know since we got this, when we started using this, our first number of trips were dry camping. Or preparing to dry camp and practicing with that, so we had just put some water in our fresh water tank using our water pump, making sure everything worked right. And so it took us a little while. We're kind of slow sometimes. Took us a while to see that we really had a consistent problem. And yesterday when we came back after about an hour and a half, we'd gone over and gone swimming, water was still just gushing out of this fresh water fill tank. This is where we fill our fresh water. And when you would take the lid off, water would just pour.
Yet this has nothing to do with the city water connection.
Well, we didn't know. I thought surely there's a switch I'm supposed to turn somewhere that lets it know that I now have city water. I couldn't imagine what was going on. And so our solution for staying here last night was, let's go, we had some gallon water jugs that we had left in the RV last time we were on a trip. We brought the dogs water in that, and so we went and got some fresh water to use for coffee and tea, and we knew that the fresh water tank was full because water was spewing out. And so it's been over 6 months since we'd sanitized. We really didn't want to use that for drinking water, but we felt fine washing dishes, washing our hands, etc., taking a shower, whatever. We've said all of that to say stuff happens. And if it happens in life, but I really think it happens a lot more with an RV. But we love it, and there's no way we're going to stop doing it.
No.
Happens. You've got an electric system, you've got a plumbed system, you've got furniture, you've got appliances, and you're dragging it down the road and it's vibrating. You've got all of this stuff going on. And so we've been doing this just about 5 years, and we want to take a stroll down memory lane and let you know some of the things that have happened to us over the years as we have traveled, and starting with that first trip.
Man, the first trip, we were so excited. We were going to get to go and take the fifth wheel, and it was going to be so perfect. And we were so excited about going that rather than wait until the following morning to leave, we decided it'd be a good idea to leave the afternoon after Sharon finished teaching. So she came to my house. I got hot, so I took all summer clothes, and it was November.
It was a Thanksgiving trip.
And we hooked up, went down the road. It was after dark when we got to the camp on our first camping trip to set up.
And we made a video about reliving this, but bottom line is, the only time we've ever set up at night was that first trip. We set up at the night, and it was a good hard drizzle, and it was dark. It was
the first trip. We didn't remember anything about there being outside lights.
Or even think that we don't have to unhitch until the next morning when we can see. So, we were just newbies, but we were excited and we didn't care. And then Theo escaped on that one. Okay, our second trip. I'm going to show you a picture of a bad scrape that's on my front bumper, and that happened on our second trip. Our first 3 trips, we went to pull through sites because we thought that would make life easier for us. What I found out on that second trip was the truck and the fifth wheel, I love that Super Glide hitch, but in order to hitch, they had to be lined up exactly. You couldn't be at an angle. You had to be exact. And while I was negotiating, had gotten it straight enough that I could unhitch. The dogs are talking to each other. Trying to get it backed in and straight. There were rocks marking our side, large rocks, and I hit one hard. I mean, I had to really maneuver to get backed into.
There was that, and also on the second trip, that was where
It was between Christmas and New Year's.
we had read about people and seen videos about people winterizing,
We knew we needed to because we were going to get some freezing weather.
and we needed to. We thought at the end of the second trip, so it was sleeting.
Well, they talked about emptying your tanks and winterizing at the same time. So since we had pulled through full hookups on our first 3 trips, we thought while we were emptying those tanks, we were supposed to go on and do everything. And so,
In the sleet.
and we still had the low point drains. You had to unscrew it.
Yes.
I didn't know anything about PEX pipes, but I'd start to turn that, and the PEX pipe would start to turn a little bit, so I'd get pliers, and I'm up under there trying to unscrew the hot water low point drain, the cold water low point drain, fresh, and I just got drenched.
Yes.
And it's sleeting, so it was cold.
Stuff happens.
Stuff does happen. Our third trip, no, we were not discouraged so far. Third trip, went to Tyler State Park.
Spring break.
It was a spring break trip, and got there, and we could not unhitch. I mean, I tried.
It wouldn't. I mean,
It would not unhitch.
she tried. I tried.
We got
both tried.
We got all the information we had. We read everything. I used a half a can of WD-40 on everything I could think of.
It wouldn't unhitch.
Could not get the thing unhitched. I'll show you. I don't know if you can see the picture, but there is a dent in the side of my truck. We're gonna get a new truck. We just want to make sure we knew how to do everything first. But there's a dent because I went to the campsite next to us, and there's a big man there, and we appreciate him coming over. He tried, and he said, "I'm afraid I'm gonna dent your truck." I said, "It's okay. We got to get unhitched," and he did dent the truck. He didn't get it unhitched.
No.
Finally, after we're like, we can't stay hitched the entire time we're here.
We got to be able to use the truck,
And so finally we read the books, and it took us over 2 years to figure out how to get the thing unhitched consistently, and that's why I made a video about when your trailer won't unhitch. I thought, surely I'm not the only person this has ever happened to. But, nobody tells you these things, and just in case what happens, and it happens with bumper pulls as well, I'll use the kingpin as an example. When you're driving down the road, that kingpin is actually hanging down from the fifth wheel. And so this thing is hanging down. You've got this hook that comes around, and comes around, and you're pulling the trailer. Well, the entire weight of the trailer is holding onto that thing. And so as I'm trying to pull it, I'm trying to essentially pull the weight of the trailer and figured out if I would shock my wheels. And depending, if you backed up, the weight is going this way, depending on how you've gotten in your sight. If I would move that just a fraction of an inch,
like,
consistently, take your foot off the brake enough to, and maybe put it in gear and let your foot off the brake a little bit, release that pressure, save my elbows. I mean, for 2 years, anytime we went on a trip, I had bruises where it was awful. But stuff happened.
Yes.
But we were stubborn. We were persistent. We kept going. That third trip was a hard one. We found out we had a hole in the roof. Found that out because water was dripping into the kitchen.
Yes.
And so
my wall was wet.
was getting, that was just kind of condensation, I think, that was going along with it. But we found out we had a hole in the roof, and this is something we've never shared before. I know I can't
be discreet.
I can't be the only person that has ever had this happen. Those first 3 trips, we had full hookups because we didn't want to be at a dump station and have people waiting in line behind us when we weren't sure what we were doing. And I counting over there, and if you know anything about sewer hoses, the there are little nubbies that stick up, kind of like that fifth wheel hitch, and then little things that hook onto it, and so you have to connect that so that those hook. And I had done that.
Yes.
And then I had gotten the hose, into the spout that goes down into the actual sewer part. And the fifth wheel, the handle where you release the black tank was actually up under the fifth wheel. When I made a video about how to empty the black tanks, I showed that because it was so awkward. I had to have a cushion to get on the ground to get under the fifth wheel to grab hold of that and pull it toward the kingpin. That's
Yes.
the direction that black tank emptied. And so I was under there, pulled that handle, and found out instead of having all 3 or 4 of those little nubby things hooked, I only had the one on top. Oh, that was nasty. Closed it real fast. We had a hose already hooked up so that we could rinse the tank, and so we just took that hose and washed everything down
That we could.
into the sewer, and disconnected and rehooked it. And that's when I learned, by golly, every time since then I have made sure every one of I wear rubber gloves. I feel and make sure every one of those is hooked before I pull that black tank. And that
Stuff happens.
that was memorable. And then started down. We were at Tyler State Park, getting ready to get on to Interstate 20, and I look back and see a bay door. It's just so we pull over on the entrance ramp, get out, go back and lock the door, close it. But you can understand, I was distracted when I put that sewer stuff back underneath there.
And how many times have we gone with the
Been
handle?
driving, with that out.
But stuff happens.
Stuff does happen. And actually, the 4th trip was to Mission We don't
Tejas.
remember all of them in order, but these first few we do. And we found the perfect site. It is gorgeous, but the connections were on the wrong side.
Yes.
And
You backed your trailer in, and the connections were way at the front of the site.
And on the opposite side.
So there was no way.
And so we decided right there, and you got to understand, Mission Tejas State Park is in the middle of nowhere. But we decided right then and there, you know what? We need to make sure we have this cannot be the only park where this is going to happen. We want to make sure we have an extra electric cable and we had the water hose. We weren't really worried about that. So we took our 50-foot,
Yes.
just orange extension cord, plugged fans in for the dogs, and we made a trip over,
Yes.
bought an extension for the 30-amp hose, and have been glad. We've used it several times since then. And then also on that trip, MiLena had found out she was going to be retiring. It was kind of a different situation. She needed a good vacation.
And I didn't really want to retire yet.
And she was so looking forward to swimming, and so I didn't let her know that there were gators until after we got out of the water. I had read all the etiquette, and so I kept saying, MiLena, let's stay right here in the middle. Let's stay, don't get near the brush, all those kinds of things. Just being a helpful sister. Still that first year, we blew the inverter/converter, whichever way you want to look at it, which meant that while we were in Red River, New Mexico, we had to buy a battery charger.
If you know anything about Red River, New Mexico,
if you're in the market for a battery charger, I would suggest you shop anywhere except Red River, New Mexico. But I was thankful they had one.
Yes.
I mean, we needed it, and they had it, and that was great. And so those were some of the highlights of our first year. And since then, just kind of going through this list, we had a blowout.
yes, we did. We were fortunate. We were not that far from a discount tire.
Well, it was on our way to, I think we made a Thanksgiving video about this particular situation, because really the point of this video is you either look at what you're thankful for or what the problem is. And it happened. Someone let us know immediately. We got off. It did no damage to the RV. We were at a perfect place for the person
Yes.
to come and change the tire for us. We had cell service. The guy got there in under an hour. There was we got new tires. I mean, we knew, I was planning on getting tires before we started in the spring. We just upped it a little bit. We did make another video briefly talking about remembering the time we tried to empty our black tanks when we don't know anything about mountains, and we were trying to drain our tanks, and the drain was higher than we were when we that was hard.
That doesn't work.
That doesn't. It's a gravity situation, and so trying to
lift the hose,
and pull the truck
yes.
forward a little bit because we were still hit. It was bad. It was bad. The coffee pot, we left it.
I did that more than once. I take care of the inside, and
when we're leaving,
when the coffee pot is out, I know who left it out. I've done that more than once. Never have broken a coffee pot. We've had grounds all over the floor, but never have broken.
But the RV smells good.
Oh, it's great.
Okay. when we went to Atlanta, and this was before we started a YouTube channel, went to Atlanta at Altoona Lake Altoona, and out of Atlanta. And we stayed at a gorgeous Corps of Engineer park.
Actually, we avoided Atlanta when
yes, we did.
Went in.
We did. We were trying to bypass it, and
that was a wise decision.
It was, and we found out when we got to it, we just finally ended up we saw a sign for a Corps of Engineer park, not the one we were supposed to be at, but I said, it's a park, it's going to be large enough for us to turn around, but before we got to it, MiLena said, oh yeah, I think it's down here, and I get going down this road, and I don't know what's down there, and finally I said, okay, these people, I think, they have a fence, but it's back far enough. I think I can back this 29-foot trailer in their driveway. Just don't let me go off the ditch on either side or hit the fence. And, I mean, I can't see anything on that side, and I'm having to back. How am I doing? Oh, you're doing great. You're doing great. You're doing great. And so finally, I'm having to inch it in, and we're on a residential street. And people we don't know, just backing it. And finally heading the other way, and I said, thanks for spotting me. Just, I couldn't see a thing. That was also the one where we ended up in some little town. We were in the downtown area.
Driving on the brick streets.
Yes, it was little cobblestones, and we needed to make a U-turn. And so I knew I couldn't make right turns because these are just little one-way, and so I'm making a left turn and then going down and waiting. I'm having to wait, motion everybody by so I can make a left turn. But anyway, and on our way back from that trip is when we got lost in Alabama.
Oh, yes, but something good came of that.
But that really wasn't our fault. We were going to cross the Tennessee River for about the 10th time. If you're from that area, you cross the Tennessee River a lot.
Every time you take a deep breath, you go across Tennessee.
It's a gorgeous river, but it evidently snakes a lot. And we're getting ready to cross the Tennessee River in some town, and they said no oversized load. This is our second summer season to be traveling. This was our big trip that summer. And so I'm thinking, we're 12 feet high, we're over, we're 8 feet wide. To me, that seemed like that's larger than a car. That's larger than a normal vehicle. I'm going to turn off because I don't want to get out on this bridge going over the Tennessee River and find out that I can't go. And so there was a sign. It was a detour, and we turned. And we drove for several miles. No other sign. Other than in construction. And so, okay, we had to have missed it. GPS is wanting us to go back over this same bridge. And finally we pull over, look at a map, and see some little road that will start us across west, going back toward home. And when we did, I saw a sign for Natchez Trace. And I told MiLena, we crossed that when we were on 20. Yes. If we go down Natchez Trace, we're going to hit something we know. And we got on the Natchez Trace and entered a different world. It was
beautiful.
And we went to a rest area. I mean, in almost no time, we're at this gorgeous rest area.
Yes.
And we heard Mother and Aunt Ruth say something about the Natchez Trace once, but I really hadn't thought anything about it. And that was when I decided I want to learn more about this Natchez Trace. And came home, looked it up, and this last spring we went there. And if you haven't watched our videos about it, we loved it. It was, it's the best trip we've ever taken, was by far.
It's wonderful.
It was, yeah, very, very memorable. The electric component has gone out on the fifth wheel, on the refrigerator.
Oh, yes.
And bless MiLena's heart, I think that was the first year she was not working, or
Yeah.
but she knew I needed a trip. I needed to get away, and we planned to go to Purtis Creek, gorgeous state park. And
Sharon said, I don't know what we're going to do. I said, Sharon, we grew up tent camping. What we're going to do, we're going to get some ice. We're going to put it in an ice chest, and we're going to go. We're going to take the RV and
we
go.
had a really large ice chest, and I got to her house. She had that ice chest in the RV, had it packed down with ice and everything in there, and we had an amazing time. We had to get that fixed, but you know, there was a workaround. Okay, we told you we had a new roof put on, or we had to have a new roof put on, and later that was it. Spring break, between spring break and summer, we had the new roof put on, and so the end of that summer we had gone to Balmorea, Fort Davis, and came back to Abilene. And in Abilene State Park, the site. Here is our site that we're going to be backing into, and the road kind of curved around, so I mean I'm just backing straight. So I told MiLena, just get back there and tell me when to stop, essentially. Just spot for me. She's back there, and I'm backing, and I'm backing, and I'm backing, and finally I stopped, and I get out, and I yelled back and said, how close am I to that limb? And her reply was,
What limb?
look up. I said, oh, stop! And so this brand new roof has skinned.
Yes.
We have, and what's interesting, on our way here yesterday, we saw a fifth wheel that had the same, they're higher, and the branches just get after them. But, so we scraped that brand new roof. We came home to a water show when we had
that was at
Fort
Richardson or Arrow.
No, Fort
it's
Richardson. Fort Richardson. we carry an extra water hose. We told you. Well, one of the reasons is we had I don't know, something happened. That water hose burst, and we got home and we just had a little water fountain on the side of our RV.
It's beautiful, but
had we not had an extra water hose, you know, that could have been a really bad thing, because we hadn't filled the freshwater tank at that point. And by the way, with this, because we know that the freshwater tank is full, the other thing we're going to do now is we plan on doing some dry camping this fall. We're going to sanitize it.
Yes.
We happen to be planning another little trip next week. We'll get all of get everything cleaned out, and then we'll be ready to go. Okay, and then with this RV, which we have had
since about the first of the year.
The first of the year, and this is the last day. No, this is August 30th. Tomorrow's the 31st, and so almost 9 months. No, we didn't get it till the end of January. Sometime, but we didn't go camping in it until spring break. So we'll say 6 months of camping. Watch our video about the first trip boondocking. You're going to see that we had some solar installed, and things did not go the way we planned.
Stuff happens, Sharon.
And then when we were heading to Natchez Trace, this water pump had leaked, and it was leaking, and it was the water pump that was leaking, and got in and got it tightened up before we got started on that trip. It worked out great. The trim for the door,
oh man, it would not stay on. I mean, it fell off.
and
you
if we
could
did
just open the door and it'd hang. It's terrible.
On this side, and it would be doing this anyway. It had fallen off a number of times. I had tried to get it back on, and finally MiLena said, why don't you glue it? And so got some wood glue, Gorilla Glue, Shout out to Gorilla Glue. It hadn't come down again. It's up there to stay. Our longest trip, the one to Natchez and back, we lost the little part that's on top of the propane tanks. Fortunately, not until, well, it was before we got to the Smokies. But kind of tightened that together so that it didn't just go off. Lost the handle to the gray gray tank. We had to get another one of those. And then we thought Patches had...
Oh man, I was so worried. That was our first trip with Patches.
And if you're new, that's MiLena's
little cat.
Little cat.
Okay. Anyway, I started looking and looking and looking. Patches, Patches. No Patches. I went outside. I told Sharon we got to find her. Sharon noticed her dogs were terribly interested in something. That little cat had found what we called her little hidey hole. There was a place under the sofa. She was tiny, so she could get in there. She was, less...
It was a little access, but she could whip around there.
She was very young. She could whip around there no problem, and that's where she'd gone. We since have taken that away because she's gotten bigger, and
it's a little more of a challenge for her. But we wanted to make this video because RVing has changed our lives for the better. We go more, we've seen more, we've done more because we have an RV.
Yes.
And I have a friend who, she and her husband have a large bus, RV, and not a school bus, but
yes.
They bought it new, brand new.
Class A?
Yes, Class A. And when I asked about, where's your next trip, where are y'all going, she told me that her husband said he dreads their trip because he's just waiting for the next thing to happen. He can't stand the thought that something else is going to happen. Of course, if I had paid that much, I might be. But I hate that. I hate that, we take a trip, we got here, something happened.
Stuff happens.
Okay, what's our workaround? What are we going to do until we can get it fixed? Until we can figure out what needs to be done. And, it makes traveling a whole lot more fun. It makes life a lot more fun. And I want to thank our parents for giving us that attitude.
Yes.
It's not a matter if something is going to happen, it's when. And what are you going to do about it? How are you going to approach it? So, if you have an RV and something goes wrong...
Sharon may cut this out because she does the editing, but Sharon sings a little song about get happy in same pants you got mad in. And even though it's a silly little song, there's a lot of sense to it. And instead of, sorry, I had an ant bite. Instead of just being angry
or dreading
a
trip,
you can get happy in those same pants you got mad in.
And so, understand something's going to happen. Deal with it when it does, and
go on
and enjoy the trip.
Yes.
And so, hopefully, seeing that we've gotten through a lot of stuff in 5 years. And this is not an exhaustive list. This doesn't have everything on it, but just some of the major ones we could think of as we were going through it. And not one of these times that these things happened did we say, great, I'm so happy that... No, we're not.
Neither did we say, we'll never do that again. We're never going to use it.
Or I dread going somewhere because something may happen. This happened, and we're just thinking, okay, what are we going to do? Because we've got another trip planned next week, and we need to have a workaround. So, those of you who've had some stuff happen, if you want to share those with us in the comments, we'll enjoy reading those. And hope to see you down the road.
Yes.
Thanks for watching Two Tired Teachers.